again, everybody. It's Hank Zona of the Grapes Unwrapped, or should I say, bonjour, everyone. It's Henri of the Grapes Unwrapped. I wear a beret. It's important to wear one. You know, my head gets cold in the winter. I don't normally wear one here in July, but whenever I wear one, someone inevitably says, "Oh, you must be French," and I'll say, "I actually am part French. My grandfather came from Alsace-Lorraine in eastern France, and it was a trip there in my early 20s that really cemented my interest in food and wine." So when producer Mike said, "Hey, I've met this great guy who owns this real traditional French bakery in Montclair," I'll use the French pronunciation, let's go up and shoot a video with him. I said, that'd be great, let's go. So here we are in Montclair, which translates to Clear Mountain, in Montclair, New Jersey, Essex County. And we're going to go inside and meet with the owner, Arben Gasi, and we're going to see what he's up to and do a little bit of baking. Let's go inside. We're inside Le French Dad, which translates to the French Dad, and I'm here with a French Dad, and the owner and baker, Arben Gasi. Thanks for having us in.
Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
It's your day off, but it's not your day off.
No, not really. I mean, we have to be here 7 days out of 7 because the dough has to be made for the next day. So.
Baking, there's no holiday.
There's no holiday. I mean, there's no such thing as weekends or a day off, or
In fact, you're probably baking when most people are off, right? You're baking during the night. You're baking weekends. You're baking holidays.
Correct.
Because people expect to have their bread and their other baked goods.
Exactly. We're starting to have people addicted to our bread, and it's important to be able to meet the demand and to be part of the community as well.
Yeah. So you've been in here in Montclair, and you didn't choose Montclair because it's a French name. You've had a sort of an interesting journey throughout the United States here.
Yes.
Over the past 18 years, I guess you told me it was, right?
Correct.
Starting in business and industry and technology side.
Yes, I'm a mechanical engineer by trade.
So does being a mechanical engineer help as being a baker?
It does actually, because
it's very precise work.
Very precise work. You got to follow everything through the end. You got to respect also the recipes. The timing and correct or debug. As you would say, when something goes off.
Baking really is art, but there's a real science involved in baking, more so than cooking.
Exactly. Yeah. Cooking is, sometimes can be a little bit, off the cuff kind of thing.
A little more forgiving too,
exactly,
if you make a mistake.
But fermentation is very precise work, and especially with us, we work exclusively with sourdough. So we have to meet a certain amount of criteria and variables in order to produce what we produce on a daily basis.
Interesting.
Consistency is basically key to be able to reproduce that every day, despite the adverse conditions at times.
So your baking started at home,
correct,
which is not unlike being a home brewer. Right?
Correct. I mean, both fields are very related because it's all about fermentation and following the journey through. Although the sourdough culture is pure, is pure. There's yeast component and there's a bacteria component to it as well. But it's very much the same.
But you already had an interest in it previously, right?
Yes.
This wasn't something that just came to you one day and said, "I'm making breakfast for the kids.
No.
Let me see if I can become a baker."
It was also a little bit of a.
You are French, after all.
Correct, and it was also that what pushed me towards that is also the lack of good bread that we have here in the U.S. We're talking 6-7 years ago. The Maison Kaisers, the sourdough guys were not there yet. As a Frenchman, your bread is on the table every meal,
right.
For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes in between. So it was important for me to be able to make something good or something that resembled what we have in France.
And your focus is to be a French boulangerie, right? Is to be really classic in the choices that you offer your customers in both breads and other baked goods, correct?
Correct. So we're,
you're not making
if you've been to
bagels.
France, exactly. We're not making bagels. We're not making muffins, cupcakes. We really want to focus on the French craft. On the bread side, obviously dealing with sourdough, but also we make our own croissants. So all of the viennoiserie aspect as well. So it's important to be able to recreate what we have in France with locally sourced ingredients. And that's something that comes up every once in a while to our customers, you know. Good memories of France and, you know, how a croissant tastes like, and it tastes pretty much the same here. And they're kind of bluffed because, you know, they couldn't find the same thing elsewhere. So
Because let's be honest, a lot of places serving croissant are pulling them out of a freezer somewhere, right?
Exactly, but you know, we're here for the love of the craft.
So you understand the economics, but you're throwing the economics out the window and making them from scratch anyway.
The passion is what drives me, and you know, I think it translates also into the products that we make on a daily. So you know, it's important to know, you know, where your ingredients, where your food comes from.
You're originally from Sud-Ouest.
Correct.
From Toulouse. Is there anything there from your background growing up that you bake here? Is there anything that, or it's just?
No, I mean there are a few things that you know, on the food side, it's more related to you know, to healthy, you know, not healthy, but hearty things such as cassoulet, such as, you know, duck, foie gras also is
good
one
mountain
component
food. Right?
Exactly, yeah. And you know, we have every once in a while we do a special baked goods for the Kings for January, for the Kings
for holidays, for King's Cake.
Exactly, yeah.
So King's Cake is a tradition as well in
the
Toulouse,
south of France. Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize
so
that.
It started with basically candied fruits, you know, and up north they have the pithivier or the galette des rois, which is made with puff pastry and almond cream inside, to bring maybe more like locally made breads. From different regions of France, but you know, it's hard to fit everything in. We're already having like a bread of the month, you know, item that we change. You know, we make a new bread every month or so. For instance, this month we have a tomato and fresh basil bread, so
which makes sense based on the time of year.
Exactly,
so you're baking as one would bake in France, which is using not just local ingredients but seasonal.
Correct, and then also it translates into our pastries as well. So you know, during the summer we're working with cherries, strawberries. You know, we had rhubarb in the spring, so projecting into the fall we'll be working with you know, cranberries, chestnut.
The peach rosemary tart is very seasonal.
Correct.
Your macaron flavors probably reflect the seasons too.
Exactly. We have a blood orange macaron as well. So it's
no pumpkin this time of year.
No, not yet. I might have to do it. Yeah, in the fall again.
Well, only if it's French.
Exactly.
So tell me. We talked a little bit about your journey, how you went from engineering, technology world, started baking at home. You spent some time learning the craft in France and also learning the craft, we'll say, in a French outpost in New York.
Correct.
Which is almost like being in France working at Maison Kaiser.
Correct. That was one of their, well, the real journey started effectively in France when I spent some time as an apprentice at a French bakery, and you know, that first night I was just hooked. I mean, there were just two guys running the whole thing, you know, churning out. You know, it's one thing to make one or two loaves, you know, of bread at home, but it's another thing to churn out 600 baguettes and you know, dozens and dozens of, you know, specialty loaves and croissants and, you know, pastries, etc., etc. So, but you know, obviously the work was very hard. You know, you start at 2 or 3 a.m. You go through 2-3 p.m. every day. But you know, it was gratifying work. It was humbling work as well, because you know, when you have that first customer come in, you know, and bakeries in France, they open very early. Yeah? Right. People need their bread, they need their croissants.
That's right. Stick it under their arm and they head home, right?
So 6:30 a.m. you know, you have that first customer coming in, you know, thanking you for making, you know, for doing what you do.
Yeah, it's not even an expectation. It's just part of the culture.
Exactly. I'm kind of shifting my focus on, and you know, trying to also educate people, you know, or remind them, you know, what bread used to be and how it's supposed to be. Honestly, I mean,
there is really something. You know, Mike and I have done a number of videos with people who have some sort of a bread connection. Either you know, they became really great pizza artisans, but they started their family started off making bread, or they're great pizza producers, but they have this love for bread. There really is something, I guess the right word is romantic or fantastic about making bread, right? It's simple, right? It's just a few ingredients, yet there's this whole there's a precision to it. There's a mystique about it, and it's almost as if it's something that seems so simple. Seems like it's such a lofty thing for people who want to produce food.
It is, and it's a very demanding profession, but it's a lot of labor. But when you have exactly a lot of focus, but when you have the passion, when you have the drive, when you believe in what you're doing, and doing it the right way, we here do everything, with our levain, what we call in French sourdough starter. Everything is slow processed. We take over 20 hours of active fermentation throughout every bread that we make, and that gives you better digestion. That gives you better tasting bread. We can extract all the aroma we have in the grain. We are also using regionally sourced grains, organically selected and stone milled, so we don't lose any nutrients behind it. And it's important to educate them, to let people know how things should be.
And then on the other side of bread making is pastry making,
yes,
which is fun, and again still very precise because it's baking, but also I think allows then for a little more creativity and to
we can get very creative with bread. Huh?
True.
There are various ways to move things around and to make bread out of literally anything. Huh? In any culture, any culture in the world, there is some sort of bread, different shape, different different way of making it, but it's there. Pastries and viennoiserie in particular are a little bit more refined, if I may say, because it involves a lot of technique, and of course you can get creative. I mean, there's some we're here, we do basic croissant, pain au chocolat. We do pain au raisin.
Eclairs, tarts,
and exactly. So
quiches.
we're really focused on the baker's pastry.
And of course, the really hot item these days, macarons.
Oh, the macarons, of course. yes. The gluten-free, wonder of the French, pastry world. Which actually, they're macarons are an Italian invention. Yep. It was brought over by the Medicis.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
So the French enhanced it, obviously, but
obviously.
And they are today they are.
I would say people would probably associate them more with a French baked good now than they would anything else, right?
Of course. Yes.
And so this is a beautiful assortment here. One of the things we're going to do next is go downstairs and actually try my hand at baking, just to prove that. You could be a good home cook. That doesn't mean you should be a chef in a restaurant or own a restaurant. You could be a good baker at home, but doesn't mean you should own a boulangerie or a patisserie.
Yep, try it out first.
so we're not going to actually try to make these, but we're going to enjoy one right now, if you don't mind. So
this one you picked is rose.
Rose.
Yep. So we have vanilla, chocolate, lemon, cappuccino, dark chocolate and raspberry, and this is our 4th of July, where
Oh, I thought it was a Bastille Day.
Well, it's coming up, so we're lucky to share the same colors.
Okay, good. So we'll use the same
Exactly.
the same recipe for Bastille Day.
Exactly.
So.
Cheers.
I'm not going to try and make these at home. But we are going to go downstairs and try my hand at a tart. We'll see you in a few minutes. Folks, come on in. We are in Labou. Labou is the lab, the bake shop. This
Correct.
is where you experiment. This is where you prep everything. This is where you get everything ready. And we're it's not an experiment. Well, it's an experiment to see what I can do. You can do this in your sleep. We are going to make a very classic lemon meringue tart.
Correct.
So we have our ingredients all laid out, which is one of the basics baking, right, is to have your ingredients, whether you're doing it at home or commercially,
exactly.
Right, you have to have everything out ahead of time. You shouldn't be like reaching for it halfway through the process.
Exactly.
And at room temperature, of course, too, right?
Well, it really depends. I mean, we're going to warm things up.
Depending on what you're working with,
exactly,
correct.
But we're going to warm things up.
Okay. Sugar, cornstarch, lemon peel, lemon juice, eggs, lots of butter.
Of course.
Lots of butter because
French,
you're French and it's French baking. This is not off the store shelf butter, though, is it?
Correct. We get this through our one of our distributors. We have two types of butter that we use. They're both high fat ratio butters. One is a little bit higher than the other. The lower percentage ones were about 82%.
What does like a store-bought butter typically have in
They have
fat content?
Like around 75-80% or so.
So just that those few points make a big difference.
Exactly, they do.
But again, you can tell it's the water content too. You can tell when you melt a store-bought butter, it just has a different sort of consistency,
Correct.
doesn't it?
Correct.
Okay. So what are we gonna do?
So we're gonna start off with doing our lemon curd. As Hank said, we have those basic ingredients. So it's one of the simple things that we make here, and it's a very classic French dessert. We do it in the mini tarts, for individual size, but we also scale things up. So we'll first start off with our curd, and then we'll finish it off and make our meringue as well.
Okay.
Okay. So the procedure is very simple. We're gonna take our sugar. We're gonna take the cornstarch. Okay. Cornstarch is gonna help us gel things, right? As it is done.
Yep.
Sorry, let me just go get a whisk. That's one thing that I forgot from my mise en place. So we're gonna first get these guys mixed in, okay? Then we're gonna do our lemon zest. Okay.
It's a good amount of it.
Yes. Lemon juice right here.
Because there's nothing worse than having a lemon tart and it not really being all that lemony.
Yeah, we have a lot of
There's
people.
no risk of this being not lemony enough.
Exactly. We have a lot of people coming in and tasting our pastries, and they're really surprised because, well, we put real fruits and real ingredients inside, and it's just not some chemical compound that is made to resemble that. So we're gonna mix this in basically just to kind of break off the egg yolks. And then the second step of it is going to be warming it up in a bain-marie, okay? So bain-marie is French for a double boiler, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so we have here one pot with a little bit of water inside, okay? The principle of a bain-marie is to heat things up without scorching them, right? So
without having direct flame on it.
So this is typically done for sensitive items such as eggs or chocolate, for that matter, okay? We don't want to burn the chocolate because it's already been, baked once.
And we don't want to bake the eggs.
Exactly.
You don't make scrambled eggs.
We don't want to make lemon eggs, right?
That's right.
So this is what we do. We continuously keep whisking basically, and we're gonna check for temperature. Okay. Once it reaches 84 degrees Celsius, which is basically the pasteurization point, because you want to be able to pasteurize your eggs and make sure that they're safe to eat. Once we have reached that point, we're gonna put the butter in, melt everything together, and then we're gonna strain it. Okay?
And to further keep with being traditionally French, everything's in Celsius and everything is in grams.
Of course,
Right.
yes. This is the one rule that we all abide by at the bakery. There are no cups,
no ounces,
so
no teaspoons.
I'm gonna let you whisk here if you want. Let's switch places, and then we're gonna check. You're gonna see, after whisking for a while, it's gonna start to get thicker and thicker and thicker. Okay,
Yeah.
we want to have a thick consistency, but not too thick, otherwise we won't be able to strain it. And we're gonna check the temperature at some point.
And you can even feel from the time I first started to whisk it that there's more consistency there.
Of course, as
than
the eggs warm up, they start to, and then the starches are also, the cornstarch is starting to act as well. So
that's the tricky thing with cornstarch too, because you need, we talked about this earlier. There's science to this, so you need enough cornstarch to have the right consistency, but you don't want to have too much cornstarch because then it leaves a kind of a weird taste, doesn't it?
Exactly. There's a strange aftertaste, and you're
because I've done that at home. I've put too much cornstarch in something.
I mean, a lot of people, substitute now flour by cornstarch.
Or they make a little roux or something, right?
So if you want to make a bechamel without all that flour, you throw in a little bit of cornstarch, and you make it gluten-free as well. So there are a few things that cornstarch, potato starch can do that these guys don't. So.
Baking also is great for the forearms and wrists, folks. I can tell you that. It's a good workout here.
Well, next one I should have you do the pastry cream.
Oh.
We do this pastry cream. It's on direct fire, obviously, but we do that for 8 minutes.
You can maybe do a workout studio here too. Bakery and
Right,
workout
yeah, exactly,
studio
yeah.
might be the next rage after.
Well, that's I always tell to whoever joins us is you get a workout for free. Huh? I mean, you get
That's
paid
right.
actually for that workout.
Yeah.
So let me just put these guys in. So the water is starting to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. I mean, the main thing is to keep whisking, honestly, and just make sure that you combine all the ingredients together, and then you'll see it thickening up.
It happens pretty quickly, I know.
Yeah, it
my
depends.
wife bakes at home.
Yeah.
You can start to really, as you're whisking, you can see it thickening.
Exactly. I mean, we prepared. We did the mise en place a little bit ahead of time, so everything has come down to room temperature. But this is one of the basics creams that we do in France. I mean, a pastry cream also is one of it's maybe the most essential thing that as a pastry baker you have to know. We use exclusively egg yolks and not the whole eggs, because it gives us a more creamier texture, richer texture as well.
The way you bake, you're using true ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting specialty flours and getting them milled for you properly, that's not like buying a bag of Pillsbury off the shelf.
Exactly.
If you're using vanilla bean paste and vanilla syrups and what have you, those are not cheap. They're in fact they've gotten more and more expensive.
Exactly.
And so there's nothing imitation up on that shelf. I can see what you're using, but you can smell the lemon from this distance, which again tells you something, because you can achieve a color commercially,
of course,
to make a lemon dessert, but for it to actually taste and smell the right way too takes using real ingredients.
It's important. I agree. So now we're starting to thicken up a little bit. Okay, so we're just gonna insert the probe in here. I'm just gonna check the temperature real quick. So you can see it's steadily climbing up.
Mm-hmm. So again, that's part of that science, part of that precision.
Exactly.
You've got to get to the
there's
right
also science,
temperatures.
but there's also the food safety aspect of things. We want to make sure we pasteurize everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we're almost there. Huh? We're going to be targeting. We're going to be at 80 degrees, a little bit more. But you can see at that point, it really starts to thicken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're going to keep going until we reach that 84 degrees, until we're thick enough. All right, so we're at 84 degrees and our curd is quite there. Okay, we're just gonna keep it for a little bit, and now we have a nice thick mixture, very very even.
The beauty of it is I can see from here, it doesn't look like lemon paste or jelly. It really looks like. It looks like lemon cream.
Right. So
all that butter. We don't want to miss any, because there wasn't enough in there already.
So the butter is gonna melt obviously with the hot mixture, and it's gonna also cool things down a bit, right? And after we've dissolved all of the butter here, we're going to strain it into a container, and typically we would cool it off. We would let it cool off, for half an hour. And then put it in the fridge to drop it down to 41 degrees or below at all.
Okay.
At that time. So I'm gonna let you finish this over here. Go ahead, while I prepare the container.
Wow, this smells like butter and lemon, folks. Too bad we don't have that smell-o-vision option on the camera yet.
Might come very soon.
Smells great, looks great. I mean, this is a great color, it really is.
All right.
All right.
Well, doing a good job.
I'm your unskilled, cheap labor here today.
You're a lefty?
I'm a lefty.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife's a
Gauche,
lefty.
gauche. Gauche. So why are we straining this? We want to get out some of the, just to make it cleaner, smoother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about the texture. I mean, we're gonna reintroduce the lemon zest into it, because some of it will fall through the sieve, some will not. But it's also to make sure that we have smooth. You have a smooth and good looking curd.
Okay, I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I did it.
The next one you're gonna do on your own. Right?
All right.
All right.
I just completed the first leg of the Tour de France.
Nice and smooth texture. And we're just gonna let it go through. Okay. Quality products, you know, they demand extra care and attention to what we do. So.
Right, they're not loaded with preservatives
Exactly.
to begin with, and
I mean, you know, the end result is going to be significantly altered if something is not clean or, you know, done properly beforehand.
so by straining it too, you're some of the peel is getting in, but a lot of it's not, and so you're extracting flavor, but you're probably taking out bitterness.
Exactly. We're taking out the bitterness. We're gaining smoothness also out of it.
Better mouthfeel for the custard.
Exactly.
Because it really is it's a custard. It's a cream.
Yes.
Again, I think a lot of people think lemon meringue, and they think of that yellow gelatin jelly kind of a thing. But this is not. This is not that.
Pastry really is all about, you know, sugar, butter, and eggs. I mean, it's tough to do without, you know, one or another. So, all right. So we're smoothing everything out here. We're good. So we're gonna clean up in a little while, and our curd is here. So you see, it's now in a liquid state. But as soon as it starts cooling off, the butter's gonna, you know,
really
start
starts
solidifying a little bit, and the starch also, you know.
But it's so well.
Exactly.
Blended that it becomes something very smooth and seamless.
Yep. All right. So now we're just gonna film it real quick so the top doesn't crust.
Okay.
And now we're gonna let it sit, you know, and cool off.
Okay.
All right. So our lemon curd is all done. Now we're gonna, you know, you could wait for it to be cooled off and, you know, pour it over the tart shells. I prefer when it's cold, so I can make a nice even layer, and then we can pipe directly the meringue on top of it, right?
Because it's still another step of the process, right? Exactly. You're not going to put the meringue on until it cools, so you might as well let it cool here.
Exactly.
And then put it in the shell. Then you have more flexibility with it.
Exactly.
And I'm going to think maybe it preserves the shell
as well. Yes, because if you're putting a hot, you know, liquid on top of it, you know, the tart is going to start absorbing,
right?
And, you know, you might have a very soggy piece of, you know, pastry.
And that's not French baking.
No,
no, it's not. No. So it preserves that shell, and people want that contrast. They want.
So, fortunately for us, we have some made ahead of time. So we're basically gonna get our lemon curd out. Okay. So typically we would just use a small spatula here. I'm just gonna fill it in. Okay. So you can even start off here and just kind of, you know, tap it around
to settle in.
Of course, don't go too hard, otherwise you can break the shell, right? But what you want is a nice even layer just below the rim of the tart, okay? Because you want to be able to pipe the meringue that sits right on the edge, okay? So go ahead, Hank. Yep. Oh, sorry, you're lefty, so you might want to.
Thank you.
Otherwise, what you can also do is you can use for larger tarts. We like to use offset spatulas. So we lay out the curd, and we just kind of even, you know, we put it on a circle plate, and we just, you know, make sure that it's nice and even. Okay,
yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm going to do my little tapping here, very casually.
There you go.
Voila.
Wow, that's it. We're hiring, huh? So.
I don't work cheap.
All right, that's okay.
If it's quality all day, I'll be happy.
It's quality work, it's okay.
I'll bring wine.
There you go. We have bread, we have wine, we have pastries.
We're all ready to go.
We're set, huh? Do now is we're gonna make our meringue. So meringue is very simple. Huh? It's there are two components to it: egg whites and sugar. Okay. So
I mean, you could flavor them, but not in a traditional meringue.
You can add a little bit of lemon juice if you want to enhance the lemon zest for that matter. All right, so now we're gonna do the meringue, which basically two components: egg whites, which we have scaled beforehand, so about 100 grams, and sugar. Okay, so sugar we're gonna do the same amount.
Okay.
100 grams as well.
Again, because it's precise. This is the science aspect of it.
There are different types of meringues that you can do. There's a French meringue, Swiss meringue, and Italian meringue. They all vary in the process, but and for whatever purpose you do, you might want to employ one or another.
So it doesn't matter what size eggs you use, does it? Because you're measuring everything.
Exactly, yeah.
But do you use a certain size egg? Because someone said to me once that because I use extra large eggs instead of large eggs at home, that I'm a Confederate in the kitchen.
No, what matters honestly is the weight. Huh? I mean, we scale everything by weight, so there's no volume, there's no, you could use ostrich egg for a week, as long as it whips up right,
Yeah.
It might be expensive.
You might have too much. Yeah, you might have too much egg.
but basically, yes. So we're gonna run our lemon curd. We're gonna run our meringue. So we're gonna whip this up using our KitchenAid. That's
indispensable.
A lot of folks,
and being a mechanical engineer, when a belt slips, you know how to fix it.
Exactly. Yeah. Happened to me on the big mixer upstairs. So.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah. So we're gonna whisk. Okay. So what we're gonna look for in the first place is. Here is the ability to bring the egg whites to a soft peak, okay? And then we're going to slowly introduce the sugar, okay?
Okay.
So
I hear that all the time. You watch a cooking show, you read a recipe, and they tell you about soft peaks and stiff peaks. So maybe we can show people what those actually mean, because a lot of times I think what people do is they over peak, don't they, when they're cooking at home?
They could be, or they can also go a little bit below, and then what happens is that since the egg whites were not whipped enough, they have a tendency to leak or leach out, right? So if you want to be on the safer side, you can always add a pinch of salt to it, so it tightens things up, or just a little bit of lemon juice as well.
Okay.
So, but
salt or acid.
Exactly, yeah, just to bring things together, right? So here we are. We're gonna start whipping our eggs. So we're just gonna go full blown on it. I didn't put a significant proportions. Typically, we would do like 200 grams at a time because we have a lot of them to make. Exactly.
But this is your day off.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can see it's starting to come together.
Yep.
Huh? Okay. We're gonna wait until it widens up a bit. And we're starting to see nice ridges. It's starting to whiten. It's starting to get a little bit of volume too, right?
Yeah.
So we're almost there with the structure of the meringue. We want to look for the peaks. We want to make sure that our meringue is nice, white, and starts to shine, okay? So that means that everything has been mixed in properly together, and we're good. So let's turn it off. We're gonna check in and see what we do. So typically, that's what you would need. You would need to have a nice, if I can get it, nice peak, right? So it's holding on its own.
You've made this a few times, so you know.
So
but the experience is a big part of it too, isn't it? You just
yeah, it's after a while it becomes like a mechanical thing, So you just don't think about it anymore. You think about it when something's off, right? Sometimes the egg whites that we get, something happened in the process, and it just doesn't mix. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be on the lookout.
And you probably have variables with different times of the year too.
Correct. So piping bag here. So we go about half. And one advice is also for everybody out there: never overfill the piping bag. Stop around the middle, okay? Because you want to be able to seal it. You want to be able to shut it off and not have everything explode, right?
Shooting out.
Exactly. So this is our meringue. So you see how nice and firm the structure is, right?
Yeah.
And you have that nice silky
It's got a
texture.
great color
Exactly.
too. And there's nothing liquidy there.
No, I mean we're
But yet it's
mixing
also
pretty good.
workable.
Exactly, yeah. So we have that. So we're gonna seal this up. Well, not entirely, but what I like to do is something it's a good trick to know. Is take one of these guys, right? So now we can unwrap the dead end. And we're gonna push this in, so we have a nice, clean structure to work with.
So you're
Okay.
kind of cutting out any kind of air pockets or bubbles,
Exactly.
so everything's going to
Exactly.
come out more consistently.
Correct. So once we're there, what I usually do, I wrap it around my index finger, and I just do a first spurt to make sure that I have no air pockets coming through. Okay. So now we're gonna be ready to pipe our tarts. So there are several ways to approach the piping. Some people do 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, cardinal points, and then fill in between. I like to do the merry-go-round.
Okay.
So we start off with this. So one hand that pushes and one hand that guides. Okay, very simple. Otherwise, you're going to be too shaky. And, okay.
And the key is you want them to look consistent, so they have to,
Exactly. So you want to.
whatever design
sure you
you're
get the
going
right
with, that's what
push.
you're going with.
Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's unfortunately the pipe we got that is a little bit too big, right? So that's what you want, ideally. So the tip can change. You can do various tips. You can do a star pattern. You can do a flat pattern. Anything you really like, huh? All right, now Hank, your turn. All right.
It's my turn.
All right, there you go.
Mine are going to
So
look
watch out,
just
there's,
as...
there's an air pocket right there,
Yeah.
so it's
Oh, I see it.
yeah. So let's make sure. So what you can do is you can always take some out.
Don't
There
do
you
it
go.
over the...
All right.
So, I am wrapping it around.
Yep. Your index finger. Make sure
I
that
am
you
using this as a guide.
Correct.
I'm already... So I'm squeezing from up here, though.
have. Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Boom. Stay there.
So you want to push against it, and then release quickly, right?
See,
There
I've
you go,
already,
try to-
I've already been fired. No,
But,
that,
yeah.
oh, that looks nothing like yours.
There you go. Almost there.
I'm not
Get a
getting
little bit closer. If you
I'm not
can.
getting that tip thing.
All right, hold on. Go ahead.
There we go.
Get a little bit closer. There you go. Now, quickly.
No.
There you go. That's better.
Okay.
Much better. There you go.
See, my peaks look like the Pyrenees. Mine are geographically correct, if not baking correct.
Exactly. Well, we're bordering Spain now.
Yes.
Not France.
That's really not good looking at all.
There you go. That's better. Now, if you want, you just make a big one in the middle. There you go. Just spread everything out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Stay there.
So what you
that
want to
does
do,
not
honestly,
look good at all.
what you want to do is try to push against it
Okay.
like this, and then release. Right?
Okay.
Push and release. Got it? So make sure your arm is straight. Also, you were like this. Make sure you got it all nice and straight.
It's like tennis lessons.
Pretty much. Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. That's better. So go a little bit lower. Go a little bit lower.
Got it.
Push
Okay.
and release. There you go.
that's
Wow.
yeah. Whoa, that's a. There is absolutely zero. Well, at least they look a little bit better now, but
There you go. See, you
I
haven't
made
gone down enough.
I made American sized. Hey, the last one looked good.
Good.
So what was once a mechanical tool has become an indispensable kitchen tool
Correct.
for bakers, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this is a very good tool for us to use, especially on the pastry side. For the bread, you already have the oven for that.
Right.
But to do the lemon meringue tarts, to do crème brûlée.
Brulees, yeah.
It's very fast, convenient, and it renders pretty well. So
Instead of having to spark up the oven to do the broiler
Exactly.
to do this.
So now we're gonna adjust our gas. And what we're gonna do is very simple. We're gonna go around at first to make sure that we have the edges brown first.
Oh,
Okay, and then we'll go get in the middle. And that's it.
smells good. So it's one of those little technique things.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, I'll make
Very
sure I
nice
don't
and
hold the
smooth.
open
Yep.
flame.
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm going around the outside and then circling in.
There you go, we're good. Got it.
Around the outside and circling. Whoa, hey. I guess that's
All right.
it.
Very good. And voila.
They look brown. Again, folks, which ones did I make? Which ones did Arben make?
So if you happen to have any leftover meringue, for instance, you can also bake them.
Make some meringues.
Yep, exactly. So make literally the meringue. So you just use your tip, put them on either a sheet pan with a parchment paper, or if you have the silk pads, these are great for professional and home bake users. So pipe whatever design you want. You can at this point also remix it in with some fruits or some colors as well to put it in.
Chocolate, I think chocolate meringues.
Exactly.
Right?
So you can do some cocoa powder if you want.
Yeah. Do you bake those? Broil them? How do you?
You can bake them typically you would bake them at a low temperature, around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. For like 10-20 minutes, depending on the size. Okay. And then you just take them out of the oven and let them dry. They have to dry out completely before you're able to eat them, basically.
So they get that nice kind of shell on them and nice airy inside, right?
Exactly. And meringue is, it's good. Meringue is, what's not to like?
It's true.
Sugar and egg whites.
Sugar and egg whites, I know. It's easy. These mostly look great. Those look great. These look okay. But I'm sure they all taste great. At this point, I always bring things back around to wine. So I'm going to go grab a bottle. I'm going to come back and tell you what it is, and we'll see how it all goes.
Pair it up.
Yeah, I'll pair it up.
Good job.
We're back this time with wine, as I normally like to do. We were just talking about what we might pair with this, and pairing, there's no right or wrong answers here. Well, sometimes there are really wrong answers,
Yes,
but generally it's a matter of personal taste, and the objective of pairing is to try to bring out the most in both the wine and the food that you're having.
Correct.
I find with desserts a lot of times, though, certain table wines might get overwhelmed by sweetness in the dessert. And this isn't going to be overly sweet. This isn't American sweet. But there's still going to be, anytime there's fruit involved, there's sweetness, and there's sugar, as we know from making these. So I typically will go to dessert wine, but you said that you would, you could see having a Sancerre, which makes sense because it has a real citrusy kick. I told you I had that aged Chablis last night, which just blew me away with how fresh and citrusy it was. I paired it with scallops, sautéed scallops with a lemon butter sauce. So it kind of worked for that, and because there was some sweetness in those scallops too. So I could have seen that possibly working, but I finished that wine last night. So so what I brought was a Riesling, but what I brought was a dessert Riesling. This is an ice wine from Inniskillin in Canada. Our friends to the north. So this is an ice wine made just north of the Niagara Peninsula, just north of the United States. It's got some age to it, and you can see that. So it's got some real coloration in there too. So it's not really at the end of its life. Their own website for Inniskillin recommends this with lemon desserts. Also, it's something that's rich too. As you talked about a Jurançon, which is from your neck of the woods, which is a great dessert wine with and also an aperitif as well.
Course, yes.
Often from where you're from, a lot of times what the dessert wines here are aperitifs.
Lillet, for instance, it's also similar. It's a little bit less, less sweet.
Yeah.
But it's the Southwest, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And certain things pick up certain notes when you do pair them. So, but again, my whole thing is you want to try to get the most out of both and not have one overwhelm the other. So, so I thought this would be nice. It's got some age to it. You can see how the color has changed on this, but it still has a real has that kind of citrus and stone fruit taste, but it also has a rich mouthfeel, which is what we're going to pick up when we taste these as well. So. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Salut.
Santé.
I guess you have to taste them now, huh?
Good.
No, you taste. I was going to take this one that's not commercially viable.
Of course.
Let's see the best way to have it. I should just bite into this.
Bite into it,
okay.
Yeah. There you go. That's the best way.
I love what I do. That's nice.
Take
Oh,
a
you took
small
a more
bite.
delicate. Yeah, I was gonna say I broke mine. Nice. And a lot of times when you, after you've tasted the food and then taste the wine again, you really get to pick up the different notes in the wine that you might not have tasted the first time
Exactly.
around. A lot of times they'll refer to an ice wine as a dessert in a glass.
That's
but
it.
Why
Yeah.
not have dessert in a glass and one in hand too? So,
Cheers.
cheers, Sante. We did it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for having us in. Thanks for giving us your morning off. We appreciate it, and thanks for the lesson. Thanks for the time, and thanks for sharing your craft with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, guys. Cheers. Santé.
Santé.
Merci beaucoup.
This is Hank Zona of the Grapes Unwrapped. We'll see you next time, and when we try to tell you some more good stories with good people doing good things. Au revoir.
Oh.